Welcome. Gobble, 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 gobble. We're showtime, Turkey Day, Thanksgiving 2019. That's right. I even had the name of the show changed from 2910. So there you go. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Heathens Didn't Kill Your Ancestor Day. Things could have definitely gone a completely different way, but apparently, my ancestors liked your ancestors better than you liked us. Anyhow, we're going to move right along tonight. We are talking about Bigfoot in pre-Columbian times tonight. That's right. Before the man came and discovered, quote unquote, America. In 1492, the Native Americans actually discovered Columbus lost at sea. But I guess we can we can forget that for now. Welcome everybody to the Squatchers Lounge podcast. That's right. All right. First up tonight, in a little bit of the Let's Get Newsy edition. This is why we didn't have a show last night. Northern California's bomb cyclone storm is putting up the historic numbers. Yeah, bomb cyclone. I mean, it was a good cyclone. I don't know if it was bomb, but yeah, seriously, it was like snowmageddon around the mountains the last couple of days. It was actually pretty crazy. We drove up to the Red Hawk Casino in the lower Sierra Nevada mountains today, about 4,000 feet or so, and we could see the peaks of Haskell and some of the bigger snow peaks that are out there in Plumas County. And wow, where they just packed in with snow. I hear Tahoe is going to end up getting like 4 to 5 feet of snow over the weekend. So if you planned on going up there skiing, buy some chains, dumbasses. Yeah, the last couple of days I've literally been watching people parked on I-5 and parked on I-80, not a snow chain to be seen amongst any of them. It's like, what the actual freak? I don't know, people. Buy some snow chains. They're cheap, okay? They'll save your life. They'll save everybody's lives, and slow the hell down. All right, moving right along. This man turned bears who kept coming to his bee farm to steal honey into honey tasters. That's right. Ibram Sedef, who lives in Trabzon, Turkey, is an agriculture engineer who's a beekeeper. And for some time now, he's been having a problem with bears destroying hives in attempts to get the honey. Now, in order to keep his bees and honey safe, he secured the hives with metal cages and also left food-like fruits, honey, and bread in other areas to prevent the bears from attacking the hives. But this didn't seem to work. So what did he do? That's right. Got more information about the bears and their movements. Installed cameras to monitor the bears to see what was going on and when they were around the hives, and then eventually outsmarted them. What he did was, during the videos, he saw that the bears had a great taste for honey. We all seen Winnie the Pooh. So he placed a table with 4 different honey types for the bears to eat, and he noticed that they were most attracted by the Anzer honey because they always consumed it first without even touching the cherry blossom one. Interestingly, the bears seem to have quite the expensive taste. To get 2 pounds of that popular Turkish honey, you'd need to spend more than $300. Well, there you have it, people. Bears eat honey. In other news, water wet. Egypt unveils animal mummies of lion, cubs, crocodiles, and birdies. That's right. Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities on Saturday revealed details on recently discovered animal mummies, saying they included 2 lion cubs, as well as several crocodiles, birds, and cats. Items from the new find were displayed at a makeshift exhibition at the famed Step Pyramid of Djoser, south of Cairo, near where the mummies and the artifacts have been found in vast necropolis. What's funny about Egypt, well, I shouldn't say funny, which is kind of strange about Egypt, is you can literally be driving down a road out in the desert. The winds have changed for some weird reason for the first time in 1,000 years, and mummies will be uncovered in the middle of the desert, just kind of laying out there. So you're supposed to call these people and they come get them and do all kind of strange things to it. But there you have it, folks. Lions, bears, and cats. Oh my. I've been getting through The Essential Guide to Bigfoot by Ken Sherrard, the foreword by Peter Byrne. Yeah, it's really a decent read. It keeps away from the woo-alicious side of Bigfoot for the most part. I'm about halfway through it. I'm a slow reader, dyslexia, severe anxiety tends to make you a slow reader, but it's definitely something you can put on the gifts Christmas list for the squatcher in your house. All right. Tampa Bay taxi driver who hunted Bigfoot for 10 years finally dies at 63. We'll have to say goodbye to Tim Fasano. Yeah, it's kind of a sad week. It actually went on last week, but it didn't have the show. It's not clear what first sparked Tim Fasano's interest in finding Bigfoot, but since 2009, he has logged thousands of hours hiking and photographing and doing all kinds of strangeness in the woods. So rest in peace, Tim Fasano. No longer will you be a Biscardi dupe boy. All right. Apparently, some baseball player dude saw Bigfoot. I don't really know who Jordy Mercer is because I haven't followed Major League Baseball in a very long time. But Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the skunk ape, there are dozens of names and untold numbers of reported sightings. Even the FBI has a file on the big hairy dude. But despite the TV shows devoted to discovery, the center's focused on research and the zillions of believers who trudge through the woods in search of proof. No one's found anything more than a few scraps of hair and blurry film footage. Wrong, Michael Clare. We've got hundreds of examples of footprints from all over the western and eastern United States. We have lots of tangible, factual evidence besides hair and blurry film footage. But anyhow, on the Mercer Ranch, where Tigers infielder Jordy Mercer lives in the off season, there's a deer camera set up ready to record for 2 days now. Yeah, this thing went on, and I saw this, and this is one of the things we're going to be talking about next season in Come At Me, Bro. It is absolutely insane to think that this is a Bigfoot. This is a costume. I know exactly which costume it is. I've actually pointed out in red circles to a few of the places that are displaying, it could be a real Bigfoot. No, it's not. Somebody went and bought a Halloween costume Bigfoot, and if you just simply Google search images for Bigfoot costume, this one comes up. So congratulations, Jordy. You're not famous. You've been duped. Speaking of things that aren't duped, check it out. Bigfoot Odyssey did another episode 12, Sisters of the Moon. These ladies lay the course of Bigfoot research together, with each member lending their own style and proficiency to the aggregate. That's right. Their high standard for evidence and fearless nature help make Sisters of the Moon represent the highness of example for any researcher. People, we really need to stop calling ourselves researchers. We've never been researchers. Diane Fossey is a researcher. When you spend that many thousands of hours in the field, you can call yourself a researcher. When you go out into the field here and there, you are an investigator. You are investigating the mystery of Bigfoot, but you ain't researching crap. Anyhow, moving right along. If you like what we do here, check out Reverend Jeff's Cryptid Corner and Paranormal Escapades. I'm about to update that again for the month. There will be 4 new stories going up here tomorrow. $1 gets you in general admission. There's a couple of other options if you'd like to support us a little bit further along. But there are a few up there that you can actually check out for free, like the Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin story that started it all is still available out there to check out. So it's patreon.com/Cryptid Corner. Gets you right into that page. And just like that, my friends, it is time for a little bit of Quasi. And there is the Diener Wiener is able to get his picture back up online once again. That's right. It's going to be time for a Quasi theory from a quasi scientist.
I'm here to do one thing, is to bring one of these creatures back. I don't want to talk right now.
So don't get mad.
Just keep the camera off right now, okay? I said I don't want to talk. You got it? John, give me a Snapple.
That wasn't a quasi theory, but it was still funny. And now, Quasi Theories from a Quasi Scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
An occurrence on Munger Road. Munger Road, somewhat famous as being haunted, is in northern Illinois, about 30 miles west of Lake Michigan. There is even a movie titled Munger Road that is based very loosely on some of the scary stories about the road that are still told around the area. My family has its own stories about it that we actually experienced, and they occurred before anybody else thought the road was haunted. I shall proceed to recount one of them. Back around 35 to 40 years ago, back when the area west of Chicago was mainly small towns surrounded by farmers' fields, my brother Daryl and I, and no, I don't have another brother Daryl, so let's keep the Newhart show out of this, would go to Munger Road just to feel how creepy it was. Sometimes we'd go at night, sometimes during the day. It could be pretty creepy anytime. One day, I can't remember if it was in the early spring or the late fall, other than that the farmer's field on the east side of the road was brown stubble and the grass in the forest reserve on the west side was not greening up yet. We parked on the side of the road and walked around a bit. Daryl wandered up a low hill into the farmer's field while I examined the water in the roadside ditch. I always looked in any body of water I am near for frogs, bugs, water snakes, or anything biologically interesting. Daryl suddenly yelled something like, "Oh God, they're killing them," or words to that effect. I stopped ditch delving and ran across the road and up the hill. He was on his knees crying and mumbling about the burning teepees, the dead women, children, and braves he could see. He said he could smell the smoke from the campfires. I saw nothing, I smelled nothing, but I heard sounds coming from the west side of the road. I went back over there and clearly heard musket fire and men yelling in French, but just kind of faintly, more like the tail end of echoes. There is no record of anything of the sort ever happening there. Munger Road is in DuPage County, which is named after the French trapper DuPage, who had a station on the DuPage River, oddly enough. French voyageurs followed the rivers all over Illinois, but Munger Road is a couple of miles from the nearest rivers, so the Frenchies were unlikely to be there. Illinois is the Frenchified version of the name of the Illiniwek, or Illini Tribal Confederation, but much of northeastern Illinois belonged to the Potawatomi tribe, who are not in the Illini Confederation. The Potawatomi did not use teepees. They built dome-shaped wigwams and rectangular lodges with bark covering called longhouses, so no teepees were there to be burnt. No teepees, no Frenchmen, therefore no massacre and no ghosts. In my experience and intellectual inclinations, there are non-physical entities, not terribly smart entities, that like to play tricks on humans. I brought them up in previous quasi-theories. They are the good folk, the seed of the Celts, the fairies. They pick up thoughts and ideas from your head and use them to play with you. My siblings and I were just getting into all things Native American back then. The local fairies grabbed that and ran over us with it. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
Nothing says Thanksgiving like burned bodies and burnt down teepees. Thank you so much for the Crosby Rewind, Mr. Dean Cooper.
There's a funny fat man in a silly red suit stuck in the smoke hole of our teepee.
And there you have it. He is stuck in the smoke hole of our teepee. And now, since we offended all the Canadians last week, might as well continue on with our Canadian bashing. Camping tips for stupids, number 54.
Camping tips for stupids. Tip number 54. This is the ocean. This is a sky full of puffy white clouds. This is hot lava. And this is a sidewalk crack that you don't step on or you'll break your mama's back. Watch what you use snowshoes on out there, people. This has been Camping Tips for Stupids. Remember to spay and neuter your idiot population.
Well, there you have it, folks. Be careful of what you use as snowshoes. Thank you. There. Gotta love it. Gotta absolutely love it. All right, people. Let's take a look at who is hanging out in the live hangout tonight. It's Turkey Day. Well, there's Mr. Hunter. He has checked back in with us again tonight. Thank you, sir, for being here. Glad you checked back in with us tonight. Mr. Dean Cooper. There he is. He's the man, the myth, the legend himself. And there is Lance Windsor, our Canadian man for the Great White North. So glad you could join us. Tinted Glass 88. Glad you're here tonight. Turkey Day. I hope everybody had some turkey and some stuffings and some taters. I had actually twice today, plus a whole Maine lobster and some chilled crab legs and all the dessert I could eat. Yeah, it was amazing. There's Miss Kathy Moss. She's checking in with us as well as Chris, the sci-fi gal. Hello there, young lady. Yikes, 721. Gobble, gobble, gobble to you too. Jeremy Crotio. Hey, yeah, we're right here. We're glad you're there too. The Sam Squanch Rivera, he's checking in. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, buddy. There, Jenny Ulmer. Hey, so glad you are with us tonight as well. It's an interesting night to be along with us. And see here, getting down the middle way here. If I don't see you, if you haven't said hi, I can't say hi back to you. There is the Obsidian Radio. Howdy, howdy. Glad you are with us as well. You're Hobo Man 5. There's checking in on Turkey Day, on Thanksgiving. That's right. Glad my ancestors didn't murder your ancestors because, well, the world is a better place with you in it. All right, we're getting on down to the bottom here. I think we are just about out of people. Chris Spencer, there you are. John McCain, not the crazy old politician that died, but a different guy. Hi there. Glad you are with us as well tonight. Say hello to my buddy Aaron. He's out there. My son Sean, I'm sure we'll be checking it out when he gets done with the old Chick-fil-A job. That's right. So we are in the house tonight. So I wanted to get a chance to talk about some pre-Columbian, early American Bigfoot legends, stories, whatever you'd like to call them. And I was able to find several of them that kind of go all over the place. One of them here is called the I guess. I don't know. He is then led by a spirit called the appearing in the form of a one-legged man towards the spot where the animal spirits live. Means the frightener, and by the myth tellers is regarded as the thunder or its spirit. The Steyahama, spirit hidden under the cover of the woods, or the Stick Shore Indians, or the Stick Indians. A Yakima Indian, Simon Gowdy, told the following story about the Stick Shore Indians. 1916, the derivative, oh God bless it, my dyslexia is horrible tonight. The basis of the Yakima word roughly follows spirit hiding or cover of the woods. It means a spirit hiding under the cover of the woods. Imagine that. Mysterious and dangerous people whose general habitat is the lofty forest regions of the Cascade Mountains. They haunt the tangled timber falls, which serve them as domiciles or lodges. They are as large as the ordinary Indian. Their language is to mimic notes of birds and animals. Nocturnal in habit, they sleep or remain in seclusion during the day, and consequently are seen only on very rare occasions. It's under the cover of darkness that they perform the acts which have fastened upon them the odious appellation Stick Shore. It is then that they thrust sticks through any opening of the teepee or hunter's lodge, or shower sticks upon the belated traveler. The Indian who is delayed or lost from the trail is very apt to receive their attention. He may hear signal, perhaps a whistle, ahead of him. Should he follow the sound, it will be repeated for a time. Then he will hear it in the opposite direction along the path he just passed. If he turns back, it'll only be to detect the mysterious noises elsewhere, leading to utter confusion and bewilderment. When the traveler is crazed with dread or overcome by exhaustion and sleep, it's then that the stick shower scores a victory. Regaining his head or awakening from slumber, the wanderer is more likely to find himself stripped of all clothing, perhaps bound and trussed with thongs. He is fortunate to escape with his life. Although the timbered altitudes oftentimes comes into the lower and deserted country, two Indians were fishing in the Yakima River near Wapato when overtaken by darkness. One of them telling me the incident said, we go get horse to where we tied it to the bush. Soon me hear whistle off one side. Me listen, quick, me hear same whistle over on other side me. Soon lots of noise, different kinds, all around me. God, this is racist as shit. Everywhere. Me get bad scare. Me jump horse, run hard, get home quick. No other time me hear stick shower people down here. They stay in mountains and woods. They no come down here no more. Me no like stick shower Indian. Good God, that's just... Sorry. A hunter and his wife were going into the mountains on their annual hunt and berry expedition. And the Indian, an intelligent man, gave this account of the experience. It was getting near sundown and camping time. I was looking ahead among the trees and to one side of the trail. Not far away, I saw a man sitting on the ground. He was dressed in brown-colored clothes, and I saw that his hair was braided and hung down over his breast, the same as an Indian. He was an Indian, as he appeared to me. For an instant, I turned my eye from him, and when I looked again, he was gone. I'm not afraid of anything, but I must have been a stick shower man that I saw. I've never heard of them. I've never heard them, as many have, when out in the mountains. A Warm Springs hunter gave him this experience with inside the Cascades. I see his track, the wild stick shower engine. It was this long as your forearm, approximately 18 inches, slim track. It showed moccasin print in snow, same other than engine track. The stick showers are hunters, hunt goats on Goat Rock. They have bows and arrows. Some have guns given them by citizen stick showers. I see citizen stick shower. I talked to him in Seattle once. You was with me. The wild stick showers live in the mountains in lodges underground. Doors to lodges are heavy snow and earth. You cannot find them. They have no fire in these lodges, but they dry meat, dry salmon by fire somewhere in the woods where they hide. They dress in bear skins tied up in the front with strings. Head of bear skin covers head of stick shower, keeps off rain and snow. That bearskin dress is warm and dry and warm for coldest winter. Wow. Okay. So the stick shower men are definitely all over the Pacific Northwest pre-Columbian times. Let's take a look here. The legend of the Char Man was in wide circulation. The quiet mountain-ringed community about 14 miles inland from Ventura, California. I've heard the story many times from my peers, and my version seems to be very typical. Back in 1948, there was a big brush fire in the valley, which burned a good part of the valley and destroyed many homes. It was several days after the fire before anyone could get around to all the burned homes and the smoldering foothills to see if everyone was all right. There was a man living with his son in an isolated cabin in the hills south of town. Their house burned in the fire, and the father was killed in the fire, and the son was badly burned. When somebody finally got out to the remains of the cabin, they found that apparently the son had gone crazy from the experience, for he had hung the body of his father from what was left of a nearby tree and stripped all of the burned skin from it. After skinning his father, he fled the hills down the Old Creek Road, where has lived his charred condition ever since. Every once in a while, he comes close enough to town to encounter somebody, occasionally chasing people and such. Wow. That doesn't really have anything to do with like a Bigfoot, but that is just kind of strange. Yeah. Okay. Let's move right along here a little bit. The seed marked boy destroys the giants. Long ago, the Pueblos, which would be a Southeast United States, Mexico, Texaco thing, Texarkana, I don't know. Long ago, when the Pueblos were first where they are now, everything was wild. They were always on the lookout. They never made fire at night. They did all their cooking in the daytime. They went out in daytime for firewood. Someone noticed that people were missing, or one or two every day. They wondered why. They did not know what became of them. The old men kept watch to see if it was enemies hiding. No one could find out for years what became of the missing persons. There was an old man that went out after firewood. He made a bundle of wood to carry on his back and started home. He came to a place where he rested. While he was resting, he saw some kind of human walking, but he looked different, kind of naked, long hair on his body like an animal, big feet, hands, muscles, big head, a big mouth. The man got scared. The creature came up and grabbed the man. It was a giant. The giant killed him and took him to his cave. It was late. The family missed the old man. The war captain and the officers went out to look for him. They came to where he had rested. They examined the place. They saw the footprints of the giant. They wondered what it could be. They tracked him to the foot of a hill, cleared the entrance of this cave. They saw blood on the edge of the cage. They finally decided it was a giant that had killed the man. They looked around. They found where the giant had thrown the bones and head. They say lots of bones were there. They did not know how to get the giant, but they were going to try and get him some way. Everyone who could carry weapons finally started out to fight the giant. They decided to cut brush and make a big fire at the mouth of the cave and smoke him out. The giant gnashed his teeth. He stuck his head out. The people stood back. Then the giant came out furious. The people attacked him with bows and clubs, but they could not kill him. Finally, he ran away angry. The people kept shooting. They were arrows sticking in his body, but he did not mind. They chased him, followed his trail of blood on the ground. They chased him to the north until he crossed over the river. The blood is still there. You can see it in the rocks and the earth. He went on. Finally, they surrounded him. He went into a cave and died. You can see the red line there now today. The medicine men had helped on the last day of the fight. That is how they were able to kill him. It clouded up like a storm. There was a noise above like thunder, and lightning finally killed him. The Lighten girls who were stolen by giants. Once some people were camped on the hills near Lighten, and among them were two girls who were fond of playing far away from their camp. Their father warned them against the giants who infested the county. One day they rambled off playing as usual, and two giants saw them. They put them under their arms and ran off with them to their house on an island in a large river, a long distance away. They treated them kindly and gave them plenty of game to eat. First, they brought them grouse, rabbits, and other small game, but when they learned that the girls also ate deer, they brought them plenty of deer, and the girls made much buckskin. The giants were much amused when they saw how the girls cut up the deer, how they cooked the meat and dressed the skins. For 4 days, the girls were almost overcome by the smell of the giants, but gradually they became used to it. For 4 years, they lived with the giants who could carry them across the river to dig roots and berries, which did not grow on the island. One summer, the giant took them to long distance away to a place where huckleberries were very plentiful. They knew the girls liked huckleberries very much, so they left them to carry the berries and said they would go hunting and come back in a few days to take them home. The elder sister recognized the place as not many days' travel from their people's home, and they ran away. When the giants returned for them, they found them gone and followed their tracks. When the girls saw that they were about to be overtaken, they climbed in the top of a large spruce tree where they could not be seen. They tied themselves with their trump lines. The giants, who had lost their tracks, thought they might be in the tree and tried to discover them. They walked all around and looked up but could not see them. They thought, if they are there, we shall shake them out. So they shook the tree many times and pushed and pulled against it, but the tree did not break, and the girls did not fall down. Therefore, the giants left. After they had gone, the girls came down and ran on. The girls were looking all around for their tracks when they last came to a place where the girls had passed. They pursued them, and when the girls saw that they were overtaken, they crawled from one end into a large hollow log on a side hill. They closed the openings with branches, which they tied together with their trunk lines, and the giants lost their tracks again and thought they might be in the big log. They pulled at the branches, but they could not move. They peered in through some small cracks, but could not see anything. They tried to roll the log downhill to shake out whatever might be inside, but it was too heavy. After a while, they left. When they were gone, the girls ran on as before, and after a time reached a hunting camp of their own people in the mountains. And during their flight, they had lived on berries and full hens. Their moccasins were worn out, their clothes were torn. They told the people how the giants lived and acted, and they asked if the giants had any names besides, and they said they were called words I can't pronounce in a native language. So there you have it, my friends. That is going to wrap up our Turkey Day edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. Let's see if we had any late arrivals. There's Miss Bella. Hello, Miss Bella. I'm glad you're here. Natalie Smith, I'm glad you checked in with us as well. Let's see who else. Anybody else come in late that I need to mention? I don't want to forget anybody. It looks like that catches everybody up. So thank you guys so much for joining me here tonight. There is a turkey edition Bigfoot campfire story, of course, and we'll be back next week with the start of the end of the year shows, the superfan shows with our quasi-scientist himself, Mr. Dean Cooper. So check out this Family Trapped in Their Cabin by Bigfoot on Thanksgiving, and we'll see you guys in the next week. May the Squatch be with you. What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. These stories are based upon true events. Welcome to another Bigfoot campfire story. You know those scary movies you hear and you'll wonder if they're based on some sort of reality? Well, that's exactly what I thought when this story was told to me. Jesse and his family owned an off-grid cabin near Mount St. Helens in Washington and decided a snowy Thanksgiving is what they needed. So they loaded up with all they would need and set out for the week. This is their story. My folks and I had been coming to this cabin each winter for as long as I can remember. My dad, my mom, and my little sister Emma were on this trip, and we're all looking forward to the fun. The cabin was set up really nice. There was a huge sledding hill out back and lots of snowmobile trails to ride on. And his dad was a mechanic, so we had lots of toys out there to play with. My favorite was an old Honda 110 ATC with 3 wheels. Man, that thing was dangerous, but so much fun. Anyhow, all we had to do was bring food and get there. The rest was already in place. The drive up was about 4 hours from our town, so we made good use of it, searching for when the snowstorm would start and playing stupid car games. Dad's old Wagoneer made it there no problem, with just a couple of spots where the 4-wheel drive was needed, but we finally arrived. As usual, there was no play at first upon getting into the cabin. We had to open up the cabin, inspect it for damage, chase away any animals that might be around. Mom and Emma were opening and unloading the car, so Dad sent me around back to take the bare boards off the windows and check the roof. Well, the snow wasn't very deep yet. It was about 2 feet at this point. I managed to get out back and get the boards down just as Dad got to the back of the house and scared the crap right out of me. Just as I took the board down, there his face was, beard and all, with a scary growl at me. Of course, I screamed like a girl. Everyone laughed at me, but I turned away just in time to catch a glimpse of what I thought was a bear. I called out to my dad, and he grabbed the shotgun and came running around the back of the house. When we trudged on over in the snow to the spot, I saw it barrel down the sledding hill. When we got over there, sure enough, there were tracks going in and out of that area. It looked well traveled. We must have a new resident that thinks this is his territory. Well, we set back towards the house to warn the girls that there's a bear around and to stay close for now. We got our stuff inside, and they got the wood stove going and warming up the cabin nicely. There was a downed tree on the other side of the house, so Dad and I grabbed the saw. We went on over to cut it away and clear that area. We noticed another well-used path on this side of the house where something had been moving around and packed the trail back and forth. Well, Dad fired up the saw and made a few cuts, and I pulled the debris out of his way. It took us about an hour of sawing, but we finally got it cleared out of the way for now. Just then, I saw Dad pick up the shotgun and run forward a little bit and shot a few rounds off, too high to hit anything. I yelled out, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I saw that bear again, and I think he'll think twice about coming back around now." Well, we went inside, and just in time, as it was starting to get dusk and very cold outside. The cabin was cooking hot, and for dinner was just about ready. Mom was a at cooking on the wood stove, and beef stew was what was on it tonight. Mom will have a pot of this on the stove 24/7 till we get out of here, as it's just the best thing to warm you up. Well, we lit a few candles. We sat around the stove drinking hot chocolate, and that's when we heard the first weird call. It was like a low wail followed by a whoop. It made us all feel uneasy, as it was so loud it sounded like it was right outside the window. Dad said it had to have been a coyote, but none like we'd ever heard before. We all kind of stayed close that first night. The next morning, Dad and I went and checked on the tracks, and they were, of course, not coyotes. For the life of us, we could not find a single tracker sign anywhere we looked. That's when Dad called me over to look at that pathway and these weird footprints, twice the size of his, and barefoot. No one, and I mean no one, has ever been seen out here in all the years we've been coming here, and certainly not barefoot this time of year. What would leave tracks like this? Well, I asked, "Bigfoot?" And all I got back was that all-knowing look like I'm a dumbass and should shut up, so I skulked off back to the cabin. Well, Dad sat out there for a little while, and then he came in to warm up. He went down into the cellar, and he brought up another small shotgun and handed it to me. It was time to find out what was making those tracks, he said. So we loaded up both guns and put a few extra shells in our pockets, headed out for a long hike. Dad and I had hiked around for about 2 hours. We hadn't seen a thing. Not a rabbit, not a deer, no signs of bear. None of that was normal for this time of year. Not even any rodents. We had shot squirrel for days out here in the past. Finally, Dad decided it was time to head back. Dark was coming faster than we'd like. When we got back to the cabin, we found Mom and Emma held up in the cellar. Well, Dad called down for them to come up, and they said some animals had surrounded the cabin and were whooping at them from the windows. Mom called them hairy monster people, and again I asked, "Bigfoot?" But this time I got the response I wasn't ready for when Mom actually yelled, "Yes, Bigfoot. That has to be what they were." She said they came on one at a time as if they were called here by something. The more we screamed, the louder they whooped and banged on the walls. She said they ran off just before we got here. They must have heard us coming. Well, Dad decided that was it. We are out of here. He'd come back with some family and find out just what was going on. But this was enough to put the family in danger. It was time to pack it in. It was already too dark outside, and there was no way we could make it out in the dark, as the roads are just merely trails as it is. We'd have to stick it out until daybreak. Let's just hope they don't come back. Dad had Mom and Emma make it comfy down in the cellar, and they were down there reading books together, while Dad and I kept a watch out in the windows. Nothing had happened, not a sound, all night. It was getting very late. Maybe we got lucky. Well, Dad decided to take a peek outside, and he told me to stay near the door. Well, as he rounded the side of the house, that's when the very first whoop rang out again. But Dad quickly rang out a couple of shotgun rounds towards the sound, and then ran back into the cabin. Sure enough, It was only moments later when these other two things showed up. I could see them out the back window in the moonlight, as the moon was high and bright and reflecting off the snow. It was snowing outside now, with wet, heavy, large-sized flakes falling all around, and these two very big, dark-looking creatures made their way to the cabin on just two legs. They walked kind of strange, like they were floating on the snow, their knees never going straight. Both very tall, ducking under limbs both Dad and I passed under earlier in the day. The closer they got, the more detail you could see, and the strange sloping head, longer gangly arms that hung past the mid-thigh and down towards the middle of the waist. They took very long strides as they closed the distance, even in 3 feet of snow now, in no time, and began peering in the window at us. The faces were covered in hair except the eyes, the nose, and the lips. Very large eyes and the openings, and a dominant ridge over the eyebrows. And then I saw very, very big hands as one of them put his palm on the window and pushed off to walk away. Well, Dad whispered to me to climb down the stairs with Mom and protect them. Should they get past him, I knew what would come next, so I did as I was told. I took guard over the opening, and then I heard a slam on the front door. Whatever they were out there surely wanted in here with us. Well, Dad started to scream at it to go away, but that just made the one at the back window start to bang on the back wall in turn, and then the one at the door bang harder and harder until finally I heard the shotgun ring out once more. Everything went silent. Dad told me to come up out of the cellar and cover the back window. If they came back, to shoot it. Well, as I got to the top of the stairs, I saw the front window was now broken in, and there was some blood on the wall. Dad must have hit at least one of them. Well, it was now getting cold in the cabin, so we stoked up the wood stove as much as we could. Finally, we noticed that the sun was rising on the horizon. We had finally survived it. Well, it seemed like it took forever for the sun to finally rise enough to see outside, and when we did, we could see a blood trail leading off from the cabin. Dad drove the goals up from the cellar, and we quickly loaded up the wagoneer, and we were on our way out. Well, it had snowed nearly 2 feet that night, and now we had to take our time going out through the trails. Every now and then we noticed the blood would cross back and forth across the road. Well, that was enough for Dad, and he picked up the pace a bit, got us down the mountain as fast but as safe as he could. Mom and Emma were very shaken, but okay in talking. Myself, I was very confused as Bigfoot was no longer a myth for our family, and Dad just quietly drove the truck. Finally, Mom asked, "What do we tell people happened?" And Dad replied, "Animal attack, and that'll be enough, or we'll be labeled crazy people, and no thanks to that." So that's how we treated it. We came home early because of an animal attack, and we didn't feel like talking about it. Most people let it drop. I remember a very short time after that, he sold that cabin, as is, where is, contents included, and someone bought it up fast. That was the last we ever saw of that place, and I can't say I'll miss it. Jesse and his family found out firsthand what happens when Bigfoot claims your property. Well, your property becomes their property, and that's just the way it is. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.